So, welcome to lesson number 9 in the mini course Learn How to Program with Python. And in this lesson we will look into functions. But first let's do a little recap, because in functions we bring everything together and structure our code. But let's look at what we've done so far. So I've spoken about and explained about variables, how they work and what they look like. We've talked about data types, the strings, the ints, the floats, lists, dictionaries and tuples. I've told you about Python specifics, like the interpreter, the standard library, where you can find some more modules and import them and have extended functionality. I've explained that Python is a dynamically and strongly typed language, so you should know what that means by now and what that will do for you. We've spoken about flow control, making programs make decisions, and we've used comparisons in these decisions made by if statements. So we've compared bigger than smaller, or bigger, smaller, the not, the negative comparison, and the is equal comparison, and the in to check if a value is part of some other set of values. And then finally we've looked at how you can make the program do repetitive actions with looping, the while loop and the for loop. So until this point we've written code in a very scripting kind of way. So the Python interpreter starts at the top of the script that you've written, and then line by line it interprets the commands and processes them one by one. And what functions allow you to do is to capture and group together a set of commands that have a specific function. So in Python, a function is created by using the def keyword for define. So I can define a function that I want to loop 10 times. That's how I will call it. So I give it a name, loop 10 times, and then we use opening and closing brackets, and we can continue with a colon and then press enter. And then I can say, okay, I want to make a function that loops 10 times and prints something out. So I can do, I can set a count again. So the same code we had before, count 10, count is 10, and then we say while count is less than 10, we will print the count. Like so. And so we have grouped this code that we had before now together and put it into a function. So if we run this, let's see what will happen. And nothing happens. And that is because we have not yet called the function. So we have created the function, and to make this function execute we have to call it like this. So we do loop 10 times, and like this we call it. So we've first created a function in which we put some code that we want to be executed, and at the end of the script we will call it, and now it should print out 0 to 9. So let's have a look at that. Save. And okay, so I actually made a small mistake in the code here. That happens, and That's the nice thing about the Python interpreter. It immediately gives you feedback, and you can see what that what you've written doesn't work, and you can fix it. So what I had here was count 10, and of course if the starting count is 10, then it's never smaller than 10, so it will not print anything. So let's remove the calling of the loop of the function loop 10 times, and set the count to 0, the starting count. And then if we run this, as you will see, it will not print out anything because we haven't called it. And then if we call it loop 10 times and then run it, and again I made a mistake. So we've created the indefinite loop because we didn't add another one to the count. So count is count plus 1. So this time we should have a properly working function that counts from 0 to 9, and we call it with the loop 10 times call. So let's run it now, and there we have it. So the nice thing about creating functions is that with the same code you can make different things happen by simply changing the parameters that you will give to a function, because a function can take parameters. So let me explain this. So let's say we do not want to loop 10 times, but we want to loop x times, like so. And then we can give here x as a parameter, and then at the while count we replace the 10 with x. Then it should run x times if we give the parameter here. So let's say we want to have it run 20 times, we can say loop x times, and then we give the parameter value of 20. So what will happen is 20 will be given to x, so the comparison count will be compared to the value that's in x. In this case it's 20. So if we run this, you can see that it runs from 0 to 19, which is 20 times. Just to show you how this can be changed, we can make it run only one time. It will only print out 0, and we have 0. But we can also have it print out 10,000 times, or maybe 1,100, just to keep it short. And you see it will print until 99. So that's one of the great benefits of writing functions. Functions make it possible for you to reuse your code, and you can give parameters to a function so it will behave slightly different, but with the same logic. Another great thing about writing your code in functions is that you can organize your code. You can imagine having like 10,000 lines of code in a program, and if you do not group your code into functions, it will be really difficult to understand your code. So by writing functions, you can group code that does some specific thing. You can group it together and you give it a name that you can understand, like loop 10 times or loop x times. That tells me that if I call this, okay, something will loop x times. So I don't have to read the code and see what it does. I can just read the name of the function and I can understand what it does. If it's a very complex function, you can also write what is called a docstring. So immediately under the function name you can use triple quotes, and then again triple quotes. I usually do it like so, and then here you can write something about the function. You can write something like this function takes a value and loops as many times as the value indicates. So this will not interfere with the program, what's between the triple commas, but if someone is reading through the code, they can read here and see what the function does. So just to show you that it does not interfere, I will call it again. And you see it just runs and does not print anything to the screen. So that's the basic structure of function. It's very useful, and by now I think you have all the knowledge to build some very complex programs, and in the next lesson I will talk a little bit more about what you can do and how you should go about it, and maybe give you some examples to get you started. So I hope you like this lesson, and I'll see you in the next lesson.